Welcome back to Hot Take. I'm joined by Callum from Coppish. How are you, mate?
Not too bad. Well, been better, isn't it? Being a Liverpool fan over being a Liverpool
Bro,
fan over the last 24 hours has been a bit of a mad one, bro.
it's been
You
a
loved it. Look
rare
at you. You're struggling to hold a smile, and look at you, bro.
mate. We're recording, so everyone understands. When we're recording this, I've been awake for like 20 hours, been traveling, aeroplanes, everything. I was not missing out on this opportunity to speak to Cal tonight. No, I am. Do you know what it is? Him leaving is a good thing for Man United. It's a good thing for everyone who's a rival of Liverpool because, look, I still don't think he's a great defender, but the level of playmaking and quality that Trent brings is it's the best we've ever seen from a fullback, and it is up there with the Beckhams and the KDBs, the Gerrards in terms of his passing and crossing ability. So of course him leaving is great for us. But I am enjoying watching the meltdown. And in fairness, I've not actually seen any of your takes yet. And I purposely stay away from it, knowing that we're going to record so that it does feel fresh and
Yeah,
organic. I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans I respect kind of be level headed, but it's the ones that are asking for him to get knocked over by buses,
yeah, it's
people
crazy.
trying to take away his legacy, burning shirts. It's a mad. What have you made of his decision? Do you feel like he's been a rat and that he's done you guys dirty, or do you understand why Trent has done this?
There's so many ways to unpack this tell. So from a human standpoint, we always in life try and elevate, right? So
Mm.
if you're in a good job, you want to try and get to a great job. But we do content. Terry, you're killing it at the moment. You're almost 500k subscribers, right? But
Yeah,
but you want to get to a million, you want to get to 2 million, 3 million, etc. So you're not going to rest on 500k when you get there, are you? You're not going to sit there one day and go 500k. That's me. I'm done now. You're going to be like, okay, sick. We've hit this target. The next target 750k. Next target after that's 1 million. So I
yeah,
understand it from a human standpoint. You always want to elevate, and maybe in his mind he reached the limit of where he could get to with Liverpool. From a Liverpool fan perspective, it's annoying that we're losing a player on a free. I'd be annoyed if we're losing Trent for a fee, let alone losing him on a free.
yeah, yeah.
But I still have more frustration with the club than I do with the player, because we knew from the moment he signed his contract 4 years ago that his contract expires in 2025. What did you do in 2022, 2023, 2024, and now in 2025 for it to get here? Because I don't think everyone's coming up with these conspiracy theories that he only signed a 4 year contract because he wanted to move to Real Madrid in 4 years. And I don't think that was the case at all. You look at what Trent said in the past about this means more, what it means to play for Liverpool, wanting to be captain of Liverpool, and all these things. I don't think Trent would have said those if his plan was to ultimately move to Real Madrid in 4 years' time. I think something's happened within the last year that's turned his head. Now, that could be ambition of the club and ambition of Real Madrid. It could be a potential change of position at Real Madrid. For all we know, he could go there and potentially be one of the centre midfielders in rotation there, as well as a right back. We won't know what, in my opinion, where all the dominoes fall until we know what happens with Salah and Virgil, because then that suggests to me that the club are lowballing potentially, or not compromising on these contract terms. And then we also have to see what happens at Real Madrid as well. Either way, it stinks because we are now needing a right back, and any right back we try and go and buy now, the club who we are going to buy from is going to go, well, you lost Trent. We're going to need an extra 20% on what you want to pay us. So that's where it leaves us. But I mean, if you're going to run a business like this, you've got to take the good with the bad.
There are a lot of conspiracy theories that are floating around, and I have a few theories as well that I wanted to throw by you, just get your take as a Liverpool fan.
Mm.
I I think FSG are the biggest criminals in this particular circumstance
Mm.
because I, I haven't seen any report. I've seen Liverpool fans today and yesterday state he basically flirted with us. He said he loved us. He said he would sign, but never did. I don't remember reading any stories like that in the past 2 years.
Exactly.
So, so for me, the fact there's been zero noise, that there's been zero, I think he has turned down some deals and said he's going to leave on a free. And I just think there's two theories I have here. One, FFG have just, they've tried and tried and tried. They've kept on trying. They've gone with, let's risk losing him for free to keep him rather than selling him. Because if you sold him 2 years ago, he
Or in the summer.
definitely, Yeah. Well, if you saw him in the summer or 2 years ago, anytime, he definitely wouldn't be a Liverpool player this summer, right? He's gone already. So
Yeah.
maybe their strategy was we'll take the risk of him leaving for free, and in that time we may be able to convince him. And the story today has suggested he's been offered the most amount of money of any English player ever in the league.
I don't
So
buy
that
that.
was
Sorry to cut you, Terry. I don't buy that. I don't buy
well,
it.
but this is where the concern, and there's multiple things
Mm.
going on in my head is
Yeah.
if it's true that what you're saying and that it's the FSG didn't do it and they're briefing that because what they want it to appear, because right now I would say the noise is making FSG get away with murder and
Fact.
Trent's being attacked. And this is where I think Liverpool fans have got to be careful to not open up to not allow the fox in the hen house on these scenarios. Because I think Mo Salah and VVD will be treated the same way by FSG. I think if they don't sign new deals, the rhetoric from the club will be, we offered Salah 400 grand a week, but he said no, he wanted 5. Where
Yeah.
actually the truth might be, well, he wanted
Somewhere in the middle.
425 and he wanted a 2-year deal. But they will also paint the picture that he is
32 years old.
that they're greedy. So I think the most sensible thing for Liverpool fans to do is to keep their powder dry, to keep their counsel, to be frustrated that Trent's leaving before you start abusing this man who is, as far as I can see,
Giving everything to
the most successful academy graduate in your club's at least Premier League history in terms of what he has won you. Before you will turn on him and say things you cannot take back, that you
club.
cannot pull away, especially if you're involved in social media, because we're all going to remember that you said it. I
Yeah.
would wait to see the outcome of these other scenarios. What I also thought, and I'd love to get your view on this, is the idea is just Trent. You've got DVD and Salah, plus you've also got Konate and Allison's contracts running down, and there's a
Luis
lot of
Diaz.
theories. Lewis, that they might all be running out of contract. And I had this thought today while streaming, and it was just maybe they want to renew all of them as a club, but they have a budget of their transfer cap, and all these players are now asking for you wouldn't. It wouldn't be weird if any of those players, barring Diaz and Konate, we'll get to those two, the other 4 we've mentioned, if they're asking for 350 grand a week plus, no one's saying that's weird because of how good they are. You've probably then got Konate that's saying, well, they're on that. They're going to get 400 grand, 350 grand. I want 250. Luis Diaz, if you want to keep, he's probably saying, well, I want 200, 250. Barcelona are willing to give me that. And maybe FSG have looked at this and said, well, if we give Trent what he wants, then we have to give the others. And maybe there's this element of, well, if we end up letting a couple go and paint them as greedy, we can then give the rest that money because if Trent was offered 400 grand a week, just say he was, and he said no to it, that's theoretically £400,000 a week spread between 4 other players now to make it easier to get to their targets. And I just thought whether or not this is an element of you guys having a budget, too many players are asking for too much, and there's just simply going to be some casualties. But at some point, because I wouldn't expect all 5, 6 to leave on freeze. I can't fathom that happening. But maybe I'm well off with thinking that you know more about your club, because it does seem weird that so many of your top players are being allowed to run their contracts down at the same time.
So what it is the strategy from FSG is, and this is what it's been since we've kind of had them as owners. If you give a player a 5-year contract, instead of renewing maybe at 3 years or 2 years, they'll aim to renew in the last 18 months. And I think as a result of that, the longer they stay on the current contract, the more money they save, right? Because if you upgrade the contract up to 3 years, then instead of paying, let's say, 100k a week, you may have to, for the last 2 years of the official first contract, you're paying an extra 50k a week. Let's say if it goes up to 150, they don't want to do that. Plus, the only player that's gone past the threshold of what they deem as feasible is Salah. Salah's on 350k. The reason Salah's on that is, one, because he's one of our best players easily, and 2, the commercial revenue that he brings into the club is a whole nother level in comparison to everyone else. Virgil, I think, is on 220. Before that, Thiago was on 200. Then I think Matip was on 180. Thiago and Matip both left. So in my opinion, that money could have been, the money that they left with could have been spread over.
That makes sense. Yeah. So
but they haven't done that. But I think that the issue with Virgil and Salah's contracts, I think they both want 3-year deals or 4-year deals. I don't think the club, looking at their ages, are willing to do that.
Mm.
I think Virgil and Salah both walk as well.
Wow. I mean, listen, viewers would love your opinions on that. All three going.
If that happens, by the way, this weekly show that we have, Terry, is it's gonna be
finished.
done. Yeah, so.
Do you know what's interesting? I know Liverpool fans will hate me saying this, but I think it holds an element of truth. And I'm only saying this because I would feel the same way. If you guys have won the league, if it's announced, especially if it's announced before or too soon after you've lifted it, I do think this leaves a dampener on your season.
100%. Yeah, we've all said it. It's a dark cloud looming over the success of the season. It's a massive dark cloud, and it's annoying because the last time we won the Premier League, there was a global pandemic, and then this time we're potentially looking down the face of losing 3 of our most influential players. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's, again, as a United fan, it's funny to see, but I've put myself. You know, you hear actors like they put themselves into the shoes of the characters.
Yeah.
I've actually spent some time today thinking, how would I feel how would I have felt in sort of 2008 as we're walking up the stairs to lift that Champions League after already winning the Premier League, if I knew then that moment that Rio Ferdinand, Ronaldo and Rooney were all going for free. There's no way you're not thinking about it. And there'll be Liverpool fans online that will say, no way, Terry, there is no dampener. We'll get through this. We'll buy better players. I've said this on many shows, and I'll say it again. I don't think Liverpool will fall off and be dead. Do you know why? Because even in that 30-year period where you didn't win a league title, there was only really 4 or 5 seasons where you were dog shit. Most of those campaigns, and I always say this, Gerrard only played in crap teams. I live those moments. You guys were nearly always in the top 3 predictions every year. People should go back and search what journalists and pundits said, like who was going to win the league, like predictions from 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. Liverpool always had journalists that would go, I think they could do it this year. I think they could do it. So you always had a good team. So I don't think you're falling off.
Yeah.
But what I do feel, there is a solid argument to say Van Dijk's your greatest ever centre-back. Yeah. There's an argument to say Salah's your greatest ever attacker. Yeah. And I think it's a fact that Trent's your greatest ever right back. And yes, you can buy very good players. Yes, you can create another very good team. Yeah. But if you go through the history of English football, how many English teams have lost their greatest or one of their greatest ever players in a certain position, and the next guys come in and been as good or improved? It's rare. How many great teams come to the end of their cycle and another great team is created instantly? Even Fergie. In our living, because neither you or I lived the 70s or the 80s great Liverpool teams. The only living memory we have of someone doing that is Fergie. But between 2001 and 2000, at the end of his first great team, it wasn't until the end of 2007 that we saw another great team being made. So there was still like a 5-6 year period where we won trophies and we won league titles, but you wouldn't call that a great Fergie team. It took that time again to re-bolster that squad and adapt to and this is the other thing, it isn't just you being good, it's adapting to this team. In that time we saw Arsenal go invincible, Chelsea got the money, all these little things happen. So listen, I understand why you're stressed out. And what I do appreciate about yourself is at least you're being honest. I think there's so many Liverpool fans that are just you can smell the lie, but it's like, no, I'm not bothered. I'm bothered. I bet you are. I'll tell you another fan base that might be bothered about this. I want to pose a question to you. There's a story today that Newcastle and Aston Villa are keeping an eye out on the Noni Madueke situation. Chelsea could opt to cash in to fund new summer signings. And this is I'm not going to say Chelsea are broke, because I think that is an oversimplification of the situation. They've just gone to spend £70 million on more kids. Yeah. But it's the second time in a week that the mainstream media have reported that if Chelsea are going to buy essentially more experienced players this summer, they're going to have to sell to fund it. Yeah. And what kind of position and situation do you feel like Chelsea are in? Do you feel as though they're a few players away from being legit? Or do you feel like the process, and I know everyone hates that word now, but do you feel like that the process and the strategy is maybe a little bit broken? Because Madueke was a player they were all looking at as he's going to be a first teamer for the future. Yeah. They might now need to cash in on him to buy some more experienced players. How do you see their current strategy?
Chelsea's a weird one. It's really hard to understand what their strategy is. We might not know the full answer or the extent of it until the next couple of years. They've obviously spent a catastrophe amount of money. And you'd arguably say a lot of their players are players you'd look at and go, they'd be fantastic squad players, but not necessarily players you'd have in your starting 11 to win the league. I look at someone like Wesley Fofana, for example. I think Wesley Fofana is excellent, but injuries have killed him. Colwell hasn't kicked on since he was at Brighton. Reece James has just come back from injury and he's straight back into the team, where you think to yourself, should Gusto not be the one that you pin your hopes on and try and give him a little run in the team? Cucurella, to his credit, has come on leaps and bounds since the Euros. Goalkeeper situations diabolical. Robert Sanchez is one of the worst goalkeepers I've seen in Premier League era.
Yeah.
Caicedo, fantastic. Enzo, amazing for Argentina, average for Chelsea. Cole Palmer, brilliant. But the one reservation with Palmer is he's not doing it against the big teams, and he's fallen off a cliff in the second half of the season so far. Then the wings, you look at Sancho, who's not done what he's meant to be doing. Christopher Nkunku not doing what he's meant to be doing. Mudryk, obviously, he's got the suspension. You got Pedro Neto, who's always been riddled with injuries. Madueke, who again for me would be a perfect backup right winger. For me, you look at that area and you think you need some stardust on the wings, in my opinion. And then the striking position, obviously they lost Jackson for injury, which was really unfortunate. But even then, you still wouldn't say Jackson's the guy to take you to a Premier League title. I look at Chelsea's team and I feel as though they need a spine of international class to world-class players before they can get over that line. I understand why they're trying to buy all these young talents, because the thinking is you buy them now so you don't have to spend double, triple the amount of money in 4 or 5 years' time. The question is, are those players going to get time to develop there with the amount of players they're bringing in? Is it going to be an environment that allows these players to hit the next level, and then are Chelsea going to be in a position to hang on to these players in the future? Oh, you're on mute, bro.
Yes, I am. I feel like this summer is going to be such a big eye-opener for a lot of Chelsea fans, in the sense of the ones that are backing the process, the club, the strategy that they're going through. Because listen, they've signed Quenda from Sporting, who's got the world at his feet. He's very well coveted. There's a lot of people excited, about the quality of this young man.
Yeah.
At the same time, when they signed Nani Madueke, I remember the hype around him. I remember. Listen, I watched Mykhailo Mudryk quite a lot that season, mainly because we had a sponsor for all of our Champions League games. It was Tops. So I watched, and part of that deal, we had to do more match reactions than we normally would. That's what they wanted. So we covered games that involved non-English teams. And it just so happened that I ended up watching him play for, it was, I want to say it was Shakhtar.
Yeah,
I just ended up, I think a few British teams played them. And it just happened. I ended up watching them through that. Like, I think I watched like 5 of their 6 group games or something along those lines. And I watched him and just thought, oh, there's a player in there. And I did think there was. He had a decent first touch. He could dribble. He had electric speed. And I just thought, yeah, there's a real raw talent in there. But Chelsea got him. And the thing is, you look where he is now and you go, wow. No, I think Kenda is better. I think his talent and his ability is better. But at the same time, Chelsea signed a lot of players in the last 3 years that had that, they're going to be superstar hype about them. And a lot of them now, they're having to cash in on to potentially go and start that again. I just think what they've now got to do, and it may mean tweaking the strategy, but I think every business, I think every home, I think every school, I think every sports team has to have a plan and an end goal. But I think there has to be some agility. There has to be an agile nature to your approach when you realize a particular strategy maybe isn't working. I think that the key point about the strategy not working is this. If the rumors from the protesting Chelsea fans and the thoughts from the protesting Chelsea fans are not true, that they're not looking to cash in on Palmer and Caicedo at the first chance to make a profit, and they are going to keep them to be their star players to win a title, I think they have to also look at the volume of flops or players they're not going to be able to sell for a profit on the other side of that spectrum.
Facts.
Which was to spend 500 million on kids and maybe sell them for 700 million. You've made 200 million profit. you invest that in more players. I think they have to look at the amount of players that they're going to lose money on or have been a drain upon them that have not kicked on like Palmer, not kicked on like Caicedo.
Yeah.
And now they're in a case of, right, we might be able to sell him for 30. We're going to have to spend that straight away on this guy and hope it works out. I just think that they've got to now go for experience. I think if they go for purely young players and potential again this summer, I think they could find themselves in real trouble because they're already getting to that point now where it's like, everyone's got to sell to buy. It's a fallacy that City are rich and they still sell players to buy. But when you're in a position, I feel like Chelsea, they cannot be far away again from getting into FFP and PSR problems. And I say that because they're only turning over 600 million a year. They've spent 1.5 billion in their first 3 seasons, euros, on players. Yes, they've spread some of that cost over 8 years.
Yeah.
But now they're adding more players to it. But the thing is, yes, you spread it further than other teams, but you've also spent more than everybody else. Yeah. So when you start to accumulate all those payments up, they are eventually, if they don't start getting it right and slow down their volume of spending for 2 or 3 years, they'll eventually get to a point where they legitimately have a summer where 150 or 200 million pound has to be paid out on players. Half of them may not even be there anymore. The problem with that is when your club is only making 600 million a year in turnover, half of that is on salary already. Yeah. It leaves you with 300 million. Out of that 300 million, you've still got to pay for the stewards and the electric bills and the staff and everything else. So suddenly you start looking at it, and that means debt. That means you've got to start borrowing money. And this is where I think Chelsea fans, and there's one that watches, and DJ, I hope you comment when I say this. I've said all along, you've got very clever businessmen, and they help get you out of the first financial problem you face by selling off hotels and assets. And maybe there's still some more assets that the club can sell.
Yeah.
But I always feel this way about life. If I'm running a business, but to keep it afloat, I've had to sell my car. 6 months later, I have to get my dad sells his car and gives me the cash. If a year later I have to sell my house and take the little equity I had to keep the business going, it's not a good look. You're not running your business well, or your business isn't viable. And you can't, if you have to keep selling assets to keep the business turning over. Man United, look, I don't agree with everything that the Ineos have done, but when Sir Jim broke down that the club's revenue over a 2-year period grew by 100 million, but in that same period, by 50 million. No, sorry, I'm a lie. It was 100 million in totality over a 2-year period. The revenues grew.
Yeah.
But in that same time, the club employed an extra 100 million pound a year's worth of staff, right? And employed an extra 100 million pounds a year additional salary on players. So business-wise, we grew by 100 million, but the operating cost grew by 200 million. On a graph level, one's growing like this, the other one's growing like that. And you're in a sort of situation where it's unsustainable. At some point, you will run out of money. And if you don't start winning at the same time and getting back into the champion. Now, the one thing I would say with Chelsea as well, this is where I'll defend them. They're going to be in the World Club Championships. There's up to 100 million of prize money from that. And that is good. That will keep them in a good space for a couple of years. But they've got to start getting it right. And if they miss out on the Champions League this year, it's even more damning. So, Chelsea's transfer window is going to be so intriguing to me. It really, I'm quite excited to see what they do. Viewers, let us know your thoughts and your feelings. We've got something to say about Arsenal in a minute and some scariness on Arsenal. And Cal don't even know what I'm bringing up on this one.
I don't.
I'm going to play a clip for you guys. This was from NetBet asking about England's greatest ever players. Take a listen.
Don't know if you saw this, but Wayne Rooney said that Harry Kane is England's greatest ever player. Do you agree with Wazza?
Absolutely not. But it's hard to disagree with Wayne Rooney, isn't it?
So annoying.
I actually think the man in question's better than
100%.
The man in question.
100%. The greatest England players with regard to this England debate, I will go Wayne Rooney number 1, Ashley Cole number 2, Paul Gascoigne number 3.
Well, no, if we're doing England players, Kane's got to be in your top 3, surely.
No, he let England down, man. You know the very aggressive. You let your country down. That is so applicable to Harry Kane on multiple tournaments. The penalty in Qatar.
Oh, come
the
on.
penalty in Qatar. The square ball in.
How about the penalty against Holland? How about that penalty?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
you can't just pick on one thing.
Hang on.
Things
no, of course I can. Because
how about the penalty against Denmark in the semi-final?
Hang on, he cost us in Germany in the summer as well. He was woeful in Germany.
What do you make of what do you make of that? Like, do you think Harry Kane is England's greatest ever player?
No, Terry, I can't. I just realised now I'm gonna have to big up an ex-Evertonian and Man United player, and I don't want to be doing that while I'm wearing this on my chest, bro. Bro, I'm gonna be as objective as I can with this. I don't understand how people don't rate Wayne Rooney higher than what he is. I don't, and maybe because I'm not a similar age. Rooney's older than me, but I saw Rooney from his debut where he scores that wonder goal against Arsenal right through to the end. I think people, because Rooney played with Ronaldo and Tevez and Berbatov and in these great teams, I think people sleep on how much of a catalyst Rooney was for those teams. Like, there was a reason why Ronaldo thrived in the early portion of his Man United career, and that's because Wayne Rooney was the bulldozer up there with technique, with aggression, with composure, doing a madness which allowed someone like Ronaldo to thrive. I'm thinking back and I'm thinking Wayne Rooney's arguing with the referee 1 second, then turns around, runs onto a volley and smacks it in the top corner. Who does that now? If someone scores that goal in today's game, it's on TikTok, it's on YouTube, it's everywhere for months and months. And they live out on that goal. Rooney was scoring goals like that every month.
Yeah, I think it. I
Rooney's
will say
a whole
this
nother level.
for this debate. I'm not sure if they. I didn't watch that. I only watched the clip that they put out.
Yeah.
I'm talking kind of in my lived experience. So for me,
Yeah.
Sir Bobby Charlton, Sir Bobby Moore, to name
Jeff
a few.
Hurst
Should
and
you
all
agree,
those.
Jeff? I put them above all the modern day players because they won a World Cup and everything else. Look, I think Gascoigne was excellent. I loved watching him play. I was actually a massive fan of Teddy Sheringham, but I thought Alan Shearer, I loved him in an England shirt.
I have to throw Gerrard in there as well.
Gerrard was actually Gerrard did deliver for England, and I actually went for a period where I really wanted England to come together more as a nation, and I tried it with my friends group, and this was before social media, and we'd be in the pubs and bars around England games, and people be, "Oh, you're a Liverpool fan?" To me, be like, "Oh, why do you think that? You got Gerrard on your England shirt." I went, "No, I'm a United fan." And we and my mates all tried it one summer to see if we could. When you're out, because we used to back. I don't know what it's like now for youngsters, but when we used
That's
to go
brave,
out,
Terry. I know you did kickboxing. That's still brave, though. That is
Bruv,
very brave.
do you know what? But were a lot of people. You could tell people's heads were clicking.
Yeah.
And then, like, my mate Phil was there, and Phil he didn't put Spurs player, to be fair, but I think he put Rooney on his back. My brother, who's a Liverpool fan, put a United player on his back. I think he had Ferdinand. We were just saying we need more of this. We was more of a point. Now, if there was social media back then, it would have been a really cool thing to do around. I actually feel that if everybody during the summer could drop their allegiances for a period and just support. I know there's standards and we've got to demand this. I do and don't like him. Sometimes I just feel in life, just support. Do all the criticism afterwards, but just do the support thing. So I get all of that, and I think there needs to be more of it. But the reason why Rooney is disrespected is purely and simply because a lot of the people that put him down, he destroyed and hurt their football club for years. Yeah. And in the era that I always refer to it as like the romance era. And some people that's in their real childhood, but I generally think it's between the age of about 11 and about 17, 18. That period of football is typically when you deeply fall in love with the club and when you deeply idolize a football player. I don't really think most grown men, the way I loved Beckham as a kid, there's just no way a grown man, because I don't think a 35, 45, 50-year-old man goes, "Oh, I've got to go down the shopping mall." Why? "Oh, there's a new jacket that come out that I saw Beckham wearing and I've got to buy it." No. Or no one's going to say, "I saw Trent wearing a jacket." No grown man's doing that. Kids do it. So, but what I think happens is in that era, a lot of the people currently quite predominant on social media, in the media, when they're in that romance period, Rooney was hurting them. So there's almost this vendetta against him as an example that I see from a lot of people. I think there's that. But on Harry Kane,
I think he gets an unfair rap as well.
Well, I know you want to call me out about saying I've said about Harry Kane as well, or at least ask for an explanation. So I'll hand over you on that one. I'll hand over to you.
So I saw the clip that you had on your channel regarding his legacy and everything. I think here's the thing. even though I disagree with you, I understand your rationale and your reasoning, but I just disagree with it. And the reason why is because I think there's that fine line between ability and what you've won. I often hear people when, for example, when the Ferdinand and VVD comparison happens, Liverpool fans go, "Oh, individual talent." Man United fans go, "Look at what Ferdinand won," and there's never any middle ground. I think there needs to be middle ground with it because I think in the context of things, if you put Harry Kane in a Man United team, a Man City team, a Liverpool team, Harry Kane wins trophies. No one wins trophies at Spurs apart from that one League Cup that I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Tottenham fans. Harry Kane, even though we cuss players about not being loyal, look at Trent. Harry Kane was loyal and then gets cussed because he's loyal. So it's like, from that standpoint, I think he's in a lose-lose situation. That being said, there are times for England and for Spurs where he hasn't maybe turned up in some of the semi-finals and the finals and in the Euros and the World Cup, the one way he could have squared it to Sterling, the penalty miss against France. So I get it. But I do think, given the amount of goals he scored for England, the amount of goals he scored in the Premier League, which we all deem to be the most difficult league in the world to score goals, I think he has to be in the conversation as at least top 5 English players in my lifetime to have played for England. But not number 1. He can't be number 1. Got to be Rooney.
If we talk about what I said a few weeks ago, like he's not in my top 10 in the Prem. What you've just said and broke down, I get the logic, and I don't see it that way.
Yeah.
But I totally understand where you're coming from. For me, what I learned this listening to Joe Rogan. I was one of those people that always used to say, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps, work hard, you can better yourself.
Yeah.
That's fair if you've got bootstraps or boots.
Yeah.
Some people don't. And I think that you need to be you have to be very specific when you're talking. And, and football is one of those things where you can use that analogy. What I mean by that is, if you have the talent, these players, they're already professional football players. So it isn't some talented kid who hasn't been scouted yet or who doesn't have a family that can drive him to an academy. That's a hard thing. They're already pro footballers. They've made it through the academy stage. They're in this very privileged position already. So I use the bootstrap sort of analogy. And the reason I use it is this. Yes, you're right. I think Harry Kane, if he'd have played for Man United for 10 years under Fergie, would have won Premier Leagues. And there's a very high probability that he would have been instrumental in those teams, scored lots of goals for them. The problem we have is that we haven't seen it. But the reason we haven't seen it is because he made the wrong choices by sticking with Tottenham.
Very true.
And I do judge players on the choices they make, whether that is the team they decide to sign for or renew a contract with, whether it's they eat too much steak pie and chips, at the weekend, whether they drink too much, whether they get involved with the wrong crowds and get into trouble.
Yeah.
I look at all of those things as part of your professional decision making. And if you've not been in the title races, if you've not been in the cup finals and or delivered in them, as much as there is the theory holds water that if you were in those other sides, you'd have won those tournaments. There's no proof of it. So when I'm giving out awards for legacy, I have to give it out based on what I have seen happen and not what might have happened as an example. What might have happened, because this happens with Fergie sometimes, and people sort of say, well, what do you think would have happened if he'd have moved abroad? I have a theory that if Fergie would have sort of left Man United in 1999 and then gone to the best Italian team with the most money for 4 or 5 years, like he was offered, he'd have won league titles, and I reckon he might have picked up a Champions League. If he'd then left that great team and gone, right, there's a brilliant team in Germany right now that needs a manager, one of the best teams in the world, he could have sort of country hopped, then ended up at Real Madrid in the last 4 or 5 years of his career and won 2 or 3 Champions Leagues. There was someone, but he didn't do that, did he? So you can't give him those awards. Well, I can make an argument and say he did, because other managers that we don't class as better than Fergie
did that.
Won trophies and won Champions League with that team and that team and that team. So there is a theory that Fergie would, and so I'm consistent with it in that regard, and I'll use it against my own players. So
that's fair.
For me, someone said the other day, and he said Bruno is a legend at Man United. Ooh. If he wins us I look at it this way. I've yielded slightly, and I'll tell you as to why. He has won some trophies. Let's say we win the Europa League this year. Next year we win the FA Cup, and the season after that we win a Premier League, and he's brilliant and he's great in the title race. I can understand. Yeah, I can understand contextually that some people say he's a certain generation of United fans would say he's a legend because he may be the captain that helps pull us out of this mire. Even though some would say he's been part of the problem, but he pulled us out of the mire. And someone said to me, Terry, you can't say he's not a legend because people look at Brian Robson as a legend, who only won 2 league titles, and there are a generation of United fans that think that he's a bigger legend than Scholes, even though Scholes has 11. Yeah. So, but they've still won league titles and been instrumental figures. So my view is, in my world, and this is just from my perspective, not everybody else's, Bruno could become a legend, but it'd be a much lower down the pecking order of a legend than a Scholes and a Giggs and a Rooney and a Rio to me, because I still think the volume of what you won is important as well. And listen, retaining titles, Wenger showed everybody how hard that was to do. So I think players that can win it 2 or 3 times on the bounce and maybe win it 5, 6, 7. I mean, you saw the funny comment between Jamie Carragher and Scholes the other day. Did you see it on the overlap where Scholes said about, listen, he's won 5. I mean, you won 6 or 7. You got 6 or 7. I won 11. And even Carragher, and this is what I mean by time changing.
People forget.
They forget to win 11 in like a 15, 16-year career. I don't think people realize that the strain mentally to keep your performances at that level, your fitness. And Scholes, for the last 6 years of it, couldn't see out of one eye because but to still maintain himself. So that's why, again,
Terry, what was Scholes labels as? Boring off the pitch, boring interview, boring off the pitch.
Yeah,
on the pitch though. Delivered.
Exactly. So for me, look, I get why people don't like my Harry Kane take. I don't have him on a legacy basis, and I base legacy on 4 things. Ability is part of it, but it's ability, it's consistency, it's your output and statistics, and then the trophies that you were influential in winning. And I'm very keen when I say
they have to have all 4 for you to tick the box. Then
they don't have they have to have a combination of those 4. Does that make sense? So, for instance, if you've like Thierry Henry, right? He's got the ability, he's got the goals. He was nearly always good, and he won loads of major trophies, invincibles, doubles. He scores. If you're going to give a score, he scores high in all those categories. Harry Kane's got the ability. He's got some of the consistency. And what I mean by that, and I'll come back to that one, he's got the stats, he's got 0 influential performances that led to winning trophies. So he scores very low in that one. The consistency is very good day to day. But what I didn't see Harry Kane in enough, and this is why I don't have Gerrard as high as other midfielders, not because he wasn't an amazing football player, because we didn't see Gerrard in his pomp in enough title races. The only 2 we ever saw, Liverpool fell off in both of them, and he was the captain of them. So,
let's wrap up.
Yeah, and again, it's never a dig at him. But that's my view on that. Very, very quickly before we end, because I know you've got something you've got to jump onto. Today, Ty did a video on AFTV, all right, and it says Ty is not scared of Real Madrid's men or women. And my question to you is: should Arsenal be scared of Real Madrid?
No, because if you're scared of Real Madrid, you're going to lose. You're going to lose badly. You have to respect Real Madrid, though. And I think there's a big difference between fear and respect. You can't fear any team you go up against, because if you fear any team, you've already lost 95% of the battle. But you have to show respect to Real Madrid because, bro, we've both been there against Real Madrid. When it's in the Champions League and it gets a bit mad, there's no team like them. There is no team like them. And we found out the hard way a few times. Real Madrid in the Champions League is an animal you don't really want to annoy. So you better go out there and you better keep clean sheets and hope the referee's on your side.
I agree with you, because we're getting really close to that game now, because it's weird. It's the first ever time we've had an international break end and it's FA Cup. Rather than the Premier League. We're going to have midweek Premier League games, and then just as we're getting over that, there's more Premier League games. And just when we're getting over that, the Champions League is there. And I agree. I actually agree with Ty on this. And I rarely agree with Ty, normally because he's just so far on the crazy end of the opinion spectrum. It's crazy. But like for me, they shouldn't be scared. But I was wondering this, and it's just more of a thought for you.
Yeah.
Do you think, forget the players, the Real Madrid players are not scared of Arsenal, and I don't think Arsenal's players are scared of Real Madrid. And I always remember Declan Rice when he was at West Ham, and it was in the build-up to a Man United game. We were doing quite well. They were low down the league at the time. And the journalist or the TV presenter said, are you fearful when you have to go up against? Because it was Man United, because you got Pogba and Bruno come in. You sort of scared of going up against it. And Declan Rice, it wasn't a disrespectful face. He sort of screwed his face up and said no. And then he just explained that like professional footballers don't fear each other. It's not. It's not like two boxers where one of them's got Mike Tyson power and you know that punch is going to hurt. They don't fear each other. So I don't think Arsenal fear them and vice versa. But do you think there is any nerves from Real Madrid fans? Do you think, forget the social media attention, everyone wants to slag off Arsenal, do you think there are some Real Madrid fans that are thinking, oh, I'd rather have avoided Arsenal? Do you think anyone thinks that? Or do you think that the fans are just, we're Madrid, there's no problem?
I think, I know the show's called Hot Takes. I've got a really hot one here. I think Real Madrid look at Arsenal and think, yeah, we'll get past them, just like a lot of people in the world. And I think for that, I think it could actually be Real Madrid's undoing. I know. Bro, Terry, when I sit here and I tell you face to face, bro, I pray to God Arsenal do not beat Real Madrid. I pray to God, bro, because I'm if Arsenal win this Champions League, I'm done on content for a while. But there's just something about this season with them, especially falling away in the league. I think people are sleeping on just they could potentially stifle Real Madrid. It's not going to be pretty if they do it, but they could stifle Real Madrid. And I think it's the arrogance of the world of football who just believe that Arsenal are out now.
Well, that's the first time. Well, I always call it the football gods. The first time I spoke about this on social media was back in 2017, where everybody said that Chelsea were beating them badly in that FA Cup final. Arsenal won. The year later, Man United were playing Chelsea. Chelsea had problems. United were doing okay. Everybody predicted United to win. Chelsea won. Last season, FA Cup final, Man United City. United are getting smashed. United won. This season, when we went to Anfield, everyone was predicting 5-6-7. Not everyone. There's a huge noise for 5-6-7-0. No one thought United would play well. If Maguire didn't miss kick at the end, we win 3-2 against all odds as an example. When we played Arsenal in the FA Cup game, not only did everyone predict a beating for United, when we went down to 10 men, everyone laughed. An hour later, United are through. There's so many examples of when you completely write a team off, it goes the other way. And that's why like people think, oh, you're glazing Arsenal. No, I'm sending a message to you. Listen, people think I love Arsenal.
From a competitive standpoint,
No, I do as well. The thing is, I just made a professional commitment to my subscribers. And to anyone who doesn't subscribe or like me or like the Terrace, thinks it's crap, you're going to hate me saying that, but it's not a message for you. It's for the people that like what I do. I've decided to make a conscious effort to be as unbiased as I can, as regularly as I can. And I will say this, the volume of poor punditry I see towards Arsenal in the last 4 or 5 years, barring Man United, and I'll ring fence them because they're my club and I'm emotional about them. I have never seen anything like, in the sense of, I've seen a team that nobody predicted getting into a title race get ridiculed for coming second by a few points to a team like Man City. But at the same time, people are saying are the greatest English team of all time. And I'm sitting there and thinking, it's like, I agree with you, City, one of the greatest English teams of all time. So coming second to them by 2 or 3 points, I don't see why that's getting more criticism than a team that spent £1 billion sitting sixth. It doesn't make sense to me, and that's where and again, rival and a lot of people, my detractors always go, yeah, but we're fans, we're meant to do that. So I'm not talking about you, lot. I'm talking about the professional pundits who are meant to educate us and give us insight. So look, I agree. Listen, Madrid are the favourites, 110%. But I feel if the whole club underestimates Arsenal, there is the possibility that they come a cropper. There just is the possibility that it happens. And as you say, that will be, I mean, can you imagine Igal on the match reaction if they knock him out? It'd just be crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now we're recording this. I think Cal has frozen. So I will end the stream, the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Go check out Coppish TV right now. Go and search it. That's where you'll find Cal. Until next time, everybody, look after yourselves. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.